There is a way to walk the edge of your own woods in July, straight through the tall grass and the leaf litter where the ticks actually sit and wait, and come back to the house with nothing on you. It does not come in an aerosol can. It costs nothing. You do not order it, and you do not mix it. And in most of this country it is already growing along the back edge of your property, in the fence row, in the corner of the pasture nobody bothers to mow. There is also a fair chance you have paid a man with a chainsaw to take it out. Now close your eyes for a second and remember the smell of your grandmother's hope chest. The one at the foot of the bed, or the closet lined with pinkish red planks, where the wool coats and the quilts went every spring. You have that smell in about 2 seconds, because nobody who grew up with it ever loses it. That smell is the exact thing we are talking about. It is the reason her coats came out of storage in October without a single hole in them. And she never once called it pest control. She called it furniture. Then, in February of 2022, a Department of Agriculture laboratory in Peoria, Illinois, quietly published a result that took that old household smell and put it in a head-to-head test against the most famous chemical repellent in the world. 5 species of ticks, measured doses, and against the one tick that carries Lyme disease, the wood matched the chemical. The tree is the eastern red cedar. Welcome to nature's lost vault. Start where the colonists started. In 1564, English sailors landing at Roanoke Island looked up at a stand of dark evergreens and wrote home that they had found the tallest and reddest cedars in the world. They were wrong about the name. It is not a cedar at all. It is a juniper, Juniperus virginiana. But they were right about the wood. Red cedar heartwood does not rot and it does not warp. It cuts clean and it smells like nothing else in the forest. So the colonists made everything out of it. Rail fences that outlived the men who split them. Cabin sills, coffins, pencils for well over a century, until the good timber ran short. Walk any old cemetery in Virginia or Tennessee, and the posts still standing are red cedar. And they built chests out of it, because the oil locked in that heartwood repels the clothes moth. That was not folklore, it was the entire premise of an industry. Through the 1920s and 30s, a cedar hope chest was the standard gift for a young woman getting married, sold on exactly one promise, that what you put inside would come out in one piece. The same knowledge ran out into the barnyard. Farmers spread red cedar sawdust and shavings under the dog in the kennel and through the nest boxes in the chicken coop to hold down the fleas and the smell. Nobody wrote a study on it. It was the kind of thing your grandfather did in April because his father did it in April. Then, inside a single generation, the whole arrangement came apart. The chest went out of style first. Plastic totes were cheaper, mothballs were easier, and the wool coats ended up at the thrift store anyway. Out on the land, something worse happened. Fire suppression let red cedar march out of the fence rows and into open pasture across the Great Plains, and ranchers began chaining it, dozing it, and burning it by the thousands of acres. The United States Forest Service records it as the most widely distributed conifer of tree size in the eastern United States, native in 37 states, found in every state east of the 100th meridian, and increasing across most of that range. A tree that abundant, that useful, and that close to hand, and the modern relationship with it is a burn pile while the family buys a spray bottle at the hardware store. Which brings us back to Peoria. The National Center for Agricultural Utilization Research is a Department of Agriculture laboratory in central Illinois, and a group of its scientists had been working through American plant oils looking for something to put up against the synthetics. Their names are Lena Flor Weiler, Robert Bechler, Fred Eller, Ephantus Muturi, and Alejandro Rooney, and their results ran in the journal Experimental and Applied Acarology. The test itself is almost homemade in its simplicity. They treated small squares of filter paper with measured amounts of cedarwood oil, clipped the paper onto short vertical rods, released tick nymphs at the bottom, and watched what happened when the ticks reached the treated zone. Contact with that paper turned back between 80 and 94% of black-legged tick nymphs. The ticks retreated, slowed, or dropped off the rod entirely. And the black-legged tick nymph is the one that matters, because that stage of that species is responsible for most Lyme disease transmission in this country. They ran the same nymphs against DEET, and the honest result is this. For 4 of the 5 tick species, DEET was the stronger repellent, and there is no reason to dress that up. But against black-legged tick nymphs, the oil out of the tree held them off just as well as the chemical the army built. Read that line again. On the single tick that sends Americans to the doctor, a fence row juniper that ranchers pay contractors to remove drew even with the industry standard. The compound doing the work is called cedrol. In earlier laboratory work at the same center, Fred Eller and his colleagues found that cedrol did not merely turn those nymphs away. At the highest dose they tested, it killed all of them. There is one more finding buried in that work, and it explains why cedar products on a store shelf are so wildly inconsistent. The traditional way to pull oil out of cedar shavings is steam distillation, which is inefficient and degrades the oil while it works. Eller and his colleagues showed that carbon dioxide under pressure, a method called supercritical fluid extraction, pulls roughly 30% more oil out of the same sawdust without cooking it. 2 bottles wearing the same label can be very different products. So the obvious question is the one you are already asking. If a federal laboratory published this, why is the answer to tick season still a can of chemical? There is no villain in a boardroom here. There is something plainer, and once you see it, you cannot stop seeing it. You cannot patent a tree that grows in every fence row from Nova Scotia to Texas. There is no revenue in something your neighbor will let you haul away for free. And the proof sits inside this very story. There is a related compound called nootkatone, found in Alaska yellow cedar and in grapefruit, that the Centers for Disease Control worked on for years against ticks. The Environmental Protection Agency registered it in 2020. That one got a company, a formulation, a label, and a price, because somebody could own it. The tree behind your barn got a research paper and silence. Nobody suppressed it. It was simply never worth anyone's money to remind you, and it turns out that is enough. Learn the tree first. Red cedar is a dense evergreen with scale-like leaves pressed flat against a twig that feels squared off between your fingers, shaggy reddish bark peeling in long strips, and pale blue berries on the female trees in autumn. Crush a sprig between your palms, and you will be standing in front of that hope chest again. The smell is your confirmation. For the yard, know where the ticks actually are. Nymphs wait in leaf litter and shade at the edge, where mown lawn meets brush or woods. That boundary is the target, not the open grass. A band of red cedar chips 2 or 3 feet wide along it is a real barrier, and it is the same material sold as landscape mulch at any garden center. For the animals, do what the old farmers did. Cedar shavings under the dog bed, in the kennel, and in the coop, refreshed when the scent fades, because when the scent fades, the oil is spent. For yourself, dilute it. A few drops of cedarwood oil per teaspoon of a carrier oil worked into boot leather, sock tops, and pant cuffs before you head out. And know the limits going in. It does not hold as long as the synthetics, It wants reapplying on a hot afternoon, and undiluted oil stays away from cats entirely, because their livers cannot process these compounds the way ours do. And if the chest is still up in the attic, it is not finished. The wood stops working only because the surface has sealed over with decades of oxidation. Take fine sandpaper lightly to the inside, and the smell comes roaring back out of it. Nothing ever left. It was sitting under there the whole time, the way the tree has been sitting out in the fence row all along. If you want more of what we have forgotten, subscribe. The next vault opens soon.